When my daughter-in-law told me to leave my own home, I smiled instead of crying. I remember that moment so clearly. The ceiling fan was spinning slowly above us, creaking with every rotation, just like it has for the last 40 years. The smell of cardamom tea was still hanging in the air from the afternoon. And my son, my only boy, was just staring at his shoes. He wouldn't look at me. He just kept staring at his shoes. She didn't shout. That's the strange part. If she had shouted, maybe I could have shouted back. Maybe I could have fought. But her voice was calm, like she was discussing the weather or what to have for dinner. She said, "Mama, we think it's best if you move into the smaller room at the back. The one by the kitchen. It's more practical for everyone." The smaller room. The room with no window. The one we used for storing old newspapers and broken suitcases. She wanted to put me in the storage room of the house I had helped build with my own 2 hands, brick by brick, loan by loan, with my husband who is no longer here. And I smiled. I smiled because if I didn't, I would have shattered into a million pieces right there on the dining room floor. I smiled because I didn't want my grandson, who is 8 years old and playing with his toy car under the table, to see his grandmother fall apart. I smiled because I didn't know who I was anymore if my own son couldn't look me in the eye. I said, "Of course, Beta. If that is what you think is best." My voice was soft, so soft I barely recognized it. The words felt like stones in my mouth. That was the first crack. Not the loud, breaking sound of a falling tree, but the quiet, silent crack that appears in a wall long before it crumbles. That night, I lay in my bed, in the room where I had raised my children, where I had prayed for my husband's health, where I had dreamed of a peaceful old age. I lay there, and I knew. The estate, the land, the house, the money, it was all just paper and bricks.
But my
family, the one I had loved and poured my life into, was turning into something I didn't recognize. And the worst part was I didn't know when it started. Let me tell you about this house. Let me tell you why every crack in the ceiling, every creak in the floorboard, is a memory to me. My husband, Ravi, and I moved here 52 years ago as a young, scared, hopeful couple. This land was just a dusty plot on the edge of town then. There was nothing here. Just dirt and rocks and a single neem tree that still stands in the backyard, much older and wiser than all of us now. We didn't have money for a grand house. We had just enough for a small room and a roof. Ravi worked at the post office, a government job that was secure, but never rich. I took in sewing. I would sit by the window, pumping the pedal of my old sewing machine late into the night, the whirring sound like a lullaby, while Ravi slept after his long day. We built this house slowly, the way a bird builds a nest. One straw, one brick, one saved rupee at a time. The year we finished the second room, our son, Arjun, was born. I can still hear his first cry echoing in that room. The year we added the kitchen, he took his first steps right there on that cool cement floor. Every wall has a story. That scratch on the doorframe? That's where we marked Arjun's height every year on his birthday. The stain on the living room rug? That's where he spilled his first glass of milk, and we laughed about it, telling him it was a gift to the house. Ravi was a quiet man. A good man. He didn't say much, but his love was in the things he did. He would get up before the sun to sweep the front yard. He fixed every leaky tap himself. He built that small bookshelf in the corner with his own hands. He always said, "This house is not made of bricks, Meera. It is made of our sweat and our dreams. We must take care of it, so it will always take care of us." And it did. When Ravi passed away 10 years ago, this house held me. The walls held my grief. The kitchen, where we had cooked so many meals together, became my comfort. The garden he had planted, with its marigolds and rose bushes, became my reason to go outside every morning. When Arjun got married to Priya, I was overjoyed. I welcomed her with open arms. I told her, "This is your home now, Beta. Not mine. Ours." I taught her how to make Ravi's favorite potato curry. I showed her where the best market was for vegetables. I gave them the largest bedroom, the one facing the garden, because I wanted them to wake up to the flowers, just like Ravi and I had. When my grandson, Kabir, was born, my happiness was complete. My life had come full circle. I was the grandmother, sitting in the same armchair, watching a new life crawl on the same floor. I would tell him stories at night, the same ones I told his father. I would make him the same sweet rice pudding that Ravi loved. I was a part of their lives, and they were a part of mine. I thought this was how it would always be. The natural order of things. The young family and the old grandmother, all under one roof, held together by love and habit. I was wrong. So wrong that it didn't happen overnight. It was like a slow leak in a pipe. You don't notice it at first. A small drip here, a small drip there. Then one day, you find the wall is soft and crumbling from the inside. The first drip was the cooking. I have cooked in this kitchen for 5 decades. I know how many spoons of salt go into the dal. I know exactly how long to fry the spices. One day, I was making dinner and Priya came in. She stood by the stove, watching me. She didn't say anything at first. Then, very politely, she said, "Mama, the doctor said we should use less oil. It's not healthy for the heart. Especially for older people." I paused, the ladle in my hand. "I've always used this much oil," I said, smiling. "Your father-in-law had a strong heart. He lived to be 75, yes," she said, her voice still polite, "but things are different now. We know more about health." I nodded and put in less oil, but it felt strange. It felt like she was saying my food, the food I had fed my family for a lifetime, wasn't good enough anymore. Then came the stories. I was telling Kabir a story one evening, a story about a clever rabbit and a lion, a story my grandmother told me. He was listening, his eyes wide. Priya walked past and stopped. "Mama," she said, with a small laugh that wasn't a real laugh. "Those old stories are so violent. Lions eating rabbits? It might give him nightmares. We are trying to teach him gentler things. Maybe you could just read him a book?" I stopped telling stories after that. The words just wouldn't come. The worst was the quiet. The house that was once full of the sounds of my sewing machine, of Ravi's radio, of Arjun's childhood laughter, became quiet. They would talk in their room, with the door closed. When I came into the living room, the conversation would sometimes stop. Not always, but sometimes. Just a little pause. Just a beat of silence that said more than words ever could. I was no longer part of the main current of the house. I was a small, slow-moving stream off to the side. Arjun started working longer hours. He would come home late, eat his dinner quickly, and go to their room. When we did talk, it was about practical things. The electricity bill. The plumber. It was never about us. I tried once. I said, "Arjun, do you remember when you fell off your bicycle and broke your arm? You were so brave." He looked at me, and for a second I saw my little boy. Then the moment passed. He said, "Yes, Amma. I remember." He patted my hand, a quick, distracted pat. Then he got up and went to his room. To her. I started feeling like a guest in my own home. I would wait for them to eat before I came to the table. I would wash my own cup and plate immediately. I tried to take up less space, to be quieter, to be less of a bother. I was shrinking. My world, which was once this entire house, had shrunk to my bedroom, my armchair by the window, and the small patch of the garden I could see. And then the talk began. The talk about the estate that it started with a casual conversation at dinner. Arjun mentioned a friend of his, a colleague, who had bought a new flat. "It's very modern," he said. "Open plan. Big windows." Priya nodded. "This house is lovely, Mama," she said, looking around. "But it is old. The wiring is old. The kitchen is very traditional. It needs a lot of work." I felt a small flutter of panic in my chest.
Work. Change.
"It's a solid house," I said, holding my cup of tea a little tighter. "Your father built it well. It just needs love." "Love doesn't fix bad wiring, Alma," Arjun said, not unkindly. "It's a fire hazard." "We were just thinking," Priya continued, her voice smooth as butter, "that it might be time to think about the future. For Kabir's education. For his college. Maybe the best thing to do is to formalize things. Formalize. A big word for a simple idea. Divide. A few nights later, they came to me with papers. They sat on the edge of my bed, Arjun looking uncomfortable, Priya holding the documents like they were a shield. Arjun began, his voice low. We've been to a lawyer.
Just to get some advice.
The value of this property is good. If we partition it, we could sell part of the land. It would give us the capital to do things. To fix the house, to secure Kabir's future. Partition.
Divide.
The words felt like a knife. This land, this house, it was not just an asset. It was my husband's grave, in a way. His spirit was in these walls. You don't divide a memory. You don't partition a love, Arjun. I said, my voice trembling for the first time. This is our home. Your father's home. It is one piece. It is one soul. You cannot cut it up like a piece of cake. Mama, it's just paperwork, Priya said, her voice patient, like she was explaining something to a child. It's just practical. It's for
the best.
We have to think about Kabir. Kabir has this house, I said, my voice rising. He has this garden, this tree. That is his inheritance, not money from selling it off to strangers. They exchanged a look. That look. The one that said, she doesn't understand. She's too old. After that, the papers were always there. On the dining table. On the shelf. Whispering to me in the night. The talk became more frequent, more insistent. They would talk about percentages, about square feet, about market value. Words that had no place in a home. My home was becoming a piece of property. Then came the night. The night she told me to move to the small room. It was after another discussion about the papers. I had said no, again. I had said I couldn't, that it would break my heart. Priya had been quiet for a long time. Then she looked at me, and her eyes were not unkind, just determined, coldly determined. Like a general planning a battle. Mama, she said slowly, we have to think about the practicalities. If we're going to sell the back portion of the land, the buyer will need access. The layout of the house needs to change. The main family area, it needs to be more cohesive. We think it's best if you move into the smaller room at the back. And I smiled. And I agreed. That night, after they went to bed, I didn't sleep. I sat in my armchair by the window, looking out at the neem tree. I thought about Ravi. I talked to him in my head. Ravi, I whispered to the darkness. What did we do wrong? Did we not give him enough love? Did we spoil him? How did our son become a man who can't look his mother in the eye while his wife moves her to the storage room? The rain started then. A soft, gentle rain at first, then it became heavier, lashing against the window. It felt like the house was crying with me. The walls I had loved were now just witnesses to my defeat. The next morning I started packing my things. A few saris. Some old photographs. Ravi's old watch.
My
sewing machine. I couldn't carry the sewing machine to the small room. There wasn't space. I had to leave it behind. It felt like leaving a part of myself. The room at the back was cold and damp. It smelled of old dust and mice. I put my single bed against the wall. I hung a picture of Ravi and me on our wedding day on the only bare patch of wall. And I sat on the bed, in the dim light that came from the single bulb, and I listened to the sounds of the house going on without me. I heard Kabir laughing. I heard the clatter of dishes. I heard their life, and I was no longer in it. The first few weeks in that room were the longest of my life. The days stretched out, empty and gray. I would wake up early as I always did, but there was no reason to. No kitchen to go to, no garden to water. I would just sit and wait. Wait for the hours to pass. I would listen for Kabir's voice, and sometimes, when he came home from school, I would hear his little feet running past my door. He never stopped. He never came in. He was just a little boy, doing what he was told. One afternoon, about a month after I moved, I heard a soft knock on my door. It was so soft, I thought I imagined it. Then it came again. I opened it. It was Kabir. He was holding something behind his back. He looked up at me with his big, dark eyes, so like his grandfather's. Dottie, he whispered. Yes, my child. My heart ached just looking at him. He brought his hand from behind his back. He was holding a small, slightly squashed marigold flower, one from the garden. The garden Ravi had planted. This is for you, he said, pushing it into my hand. I picked it from the big tree. It's the best one. I took the flower. My eyes filled with tears. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Thank you, Kabir, I said, my voice cracking. It is the best one. He stood there for a moment, then he leaned in and gave me a quick, tight hug around my legs. Then he ran off, his little feet slapping on the floor.
That
flower. That tiny, crumpled flower. It changed something in me. It was a message. A message from the house, from Ravi, from life itself. It said, "You are still here. You are still loved. Don't give up." That night, I made a decision. I couldn't fight them with anger. Anger would just push them further away. But I could fight them with truth. I had to tell them what this house meant. Not as a piece of property, but as a living thing. I had to try one last time. The next evening, I came out of my room. I walked slowly to the living room, where they were sitting after dinner. Arjun was reading the paper. Priya was on her phone. They both looked up, surprised to see me. "Amma," Arjun said. "Are you okay?" "Yes, beta," I said. My voice was calm, but my heart was pounding. "I need to talk to you both.
please.
Just for a few minutes." They exchanged that look again, but they put their things down. I sat on the edge of the sofa, across from them. "I've been thinking," I began slowly, "about the house, about the papers, about the future." Priya straightened up, ready for an argument. "I know you both want what is best for Kabir. I know you think this is the practical thing to do. And maybe, in the world of money and lawyers, it is." I paused, gathering my strength. "But this house, it is not just an investment for me. It is my entire life. Do you see that crack on the ceiling there?" I pointed. "That appeared the night your father died. I watched it appear as I lay awake, crying. It was like the house was breaking with me." Arjun's face softened, just a little. "That tree in the backyard, the neem tree. Your father and I sat under it the day we found out I was pregnant with you, Arjun. We sat there, and we planned our future. Every mark on that doorframe is your height. The stain on the rug is from your first spilled milk. This house is our family album. It is the only thing I have left of your father. If we cut it up and sell it, we are not just selling land. We are tearing up the pages of our own story." I looked at Priya. "Priya, beta, I know I am old. I know my ways are different. I know I am not useful like I used to be. But I am not a piece of furniture to be moved to the storeroom. I am the mother of your husband. I am the grandmother of your son. I am a part of this family. And a family does not put its grandmother in a room with no light." Tears were now falling down my cheeks, but I didn't wipe them away. I let them fall. "Divide the land if you must. Sell it if that is your choice. I am too old and too tired to fight you in court. That would break my heart more than anything. But know this. The night we divide this estate, we will lose each other. You might gain money, you might gain a new flat, but you will lose me. And more than that, you will lose a part of yourselves. You will lose the knowledge that you come from a place of love, not just from a financial transaction." I stood up. I didn't wait for them to answer. I walked back to my small, cold room. I had said my piece. I had planted the seed. Now it was up to the rain and the sun to decide if it would grow. The next few days were strange. There was a new kind of quiet in the house. Not the cold, excluding quiet, but a thoughtful one. A heavy one. Arjun started coming home a little earlier. One evening, he knocked on my door. He stood there, awkwardly, like a teenager. "Amma," he said. "Can I come in?" I nodded, my heart in my throat. He sat on the edge of my bed, just like he used to when he was a little boy with a nightmare. He looked around the bare, cold room. He saw the single picture of his parents on the wall. He saw the small, squashed marigold I had kept in a glass of water. He saw everything. And then he looked at me. He really looked at me. He saw the old woman I had become. "I'm sorry, Amma," he whispered. And in his eyes, I saw my little boy again. The boy who fell off his bicycle. The boy who cried when his father died. My son. "I'm so sorry. I got lost. I got caught up in the plans in the future. I forgot the past. I forgot you." He didn't say anything about the house or the papers. He didn't need to. That one sentence was enough. It was the crack in his wall. A few days after that, Priya came to my room. She looked different, less sure of herself. She was holding a cup of tea, made just the way I like it with too much sugar and a little bit of ginger. Mama, she said, holding out the cup. I made this for you. I took it. Thank you, Beta. She sat down on the small stool by my bed. She was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke, her voice low. When I married Arjun, I was scared. I was scared of you. I was scared of this house. I thought I had to make my own place, my own rules. I thought your way of doing things was a threat to my way. She took a deep breath. I was wrong. I was so busy trying to build my own nest, I tried to push you out of yours.
I am so sorry, Mama.
I didn't understand. I reached out and took her hand. Her hand was young and soft. Mine was old and wrinkled. But for the first time, they felt like they belonged to the same family. We didn't have a big celebration. There was no dramatic family meeting.
It was quieter than that.
The next weekend, Arjun and Priya came to my room again. They asked me to come to the living room. They had Kabir with them. Amma, Arjun said, we've talked. A lot. We've put the papers away. He gestured to a drawer. The house is yours, Amma. It will always be yours. It's not an estate. It's our home. We want you to move back into your old room, the one by the garden. I looked at Priya. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Please, Mama. We want you there. Kabir misses your stories. Dottie, Kabir piped up, tugging my hand. Will you tell me the rabbit story now? The one where the lion is silly. I looked at them. My son, his wife, my grandson, and I knew. The house was still whole. The crack was still there, on the wall and in our hearts. You can't go through something like that and not have a scar. But scars are not weaknesses. They are proof that we survived. They are proof that we healed. That night, I moved back into my room. I sat in my armchair by the window, looking out at the neem tree in the moonlight. I could hear the faint sounds of them in the kitchen, making tea. Kabir was laughing. For the first time in months, the house felt alive again. It felt like a home. I looked at the picture of Ravi on my nightstand. I smiled, a real smile this time, not the fake one from that terrible night. Say, Ravi, I whispered. The house is still taking care of us. We just had to remember how to take care of each other. The money, the land, the estate, it's all still there. The papers are still in the drawer. Maybe one day they will be used. But not now. Not like that. Because we learned a hard truth. A family is not held together by bricks or by boundaries on a map. It is held together by the invisible threads of memory, of forgiveness, and of love. You can divide land. You can divide money. But a mother's heart? A family's history? That is not something you can ever partition. It is either shared by everyone or it is lost to everyone. And as I sat there, in the quiet of the night, with the soft rain beginning to fall again, I felt a deep sense of peace. The storm had passed. The house was still standing, and we were all still in it, together. For now, that was more than enough. That was everything.